And this leads me into my next point of, once you have been delving into the main plot of the story by learning the characters, watching the cutscenes, listening to radios, etc., you will probably get to a point where you start to notice things that other people don't really seem to be picking up on. Something that, in your mind, appears to be alluding to something bigger. This could be anything. For me personally, this was the message scribbled on the plane wing in Die Maschine. For others back in the day, this was the glowing dots on the moon in various maps. It was the fact that Richthofen was wearing a spacesuit in the map Ascension, a map that was themed around space rockets. People picked up on these things, and it eventually paid off in the form of a map taking place on a secret German base hidden on the surface of the Earth's moon. In the last few years, to me at least, there seems to be this strange sentiment that the Dark Aether story doesn't leave room to theorize, that everything is plainly laid out, and that there are no big mysteries waiting to be solved anymore. As you can see here on screen, this is not true. What you are seeing right now are the biggest mysteries we don't have answers for currently in the Dark Aether storyline right now. And this is just what I was able to pull off the top of my head. So hopefully, what we're talking about here in this section of the video will truly be able to help guide you to draw conclusions of your own and be able to start piecing together things to unveil the wider story that's to come. So one of the first big tips I would give you in order to hone your theory crafting would be to read into various mythologies and classical stories. Zombies as a mode has pretty much always drawn from gods, creatures, and events from various mythologies. The Norse being a pretty big one, as there are several allusions to things like Yggdrasil, for example, the World Tree, as an analog for the Aether itself. The Aether, just like the tree, being the thing by which all of the realms, or in this case, universes, are connected. First mentioned in a cipher for the Black Ops 1 viral marketing, then again referenced via etheric tree roots running through each individual map area in Revelations. Ragnarok, the Norse apocalypse which Odin was preparing for, in which many of the old gods would perish and the world itself, only for the universe to begin anew. Sound familiar? From around Black Ops 1 through to the end of Black Ops 4, Norse mythology has definitely been the biggest influence for Trek zombies, but there are definitely others that play a good part as well, such as Aztec, Native American influences, and later Slavic. If you really want to be able to gain a solid grasp on the zombies narrative as a whole, this is one piece of advice I strongly urge you to take in and follow. Read the classical tales of our world's various mythologies. It doesn't just have to be one specific mythology either. I've already explained the key ones involved with the old Aether storyline, so that shouldn't be of too much concern. There's no concrete way of foreseeing how the next chapter of the story will draw its influences, but it will. So read a wide variety. There are a plethora of books you could buy from Amazon, or likely find in your own local libraries, about these mythologies. But there are others, like a book I have, simply called Myths and Legends, that details a plethora of different tales varying from creation myths about how man first came to be and inhabit the earth and how the animals came about, to stories of the gods from a whole sort of mythologies, such as classical Greek, Chinese, Norse, Celtic, African, and Native American. The real point I'm trying to nail in here is to simply learn and absorb from wherever you can, because by doing this, you'll be more susceptible to picking up to when writers are incorporating it into their own work, and from there be able to paint a clear image in your mind of just where things might be headed from that point. The next big tip I want to give you for crafting your own theories is one that may help you whenever you get to a point where you just seem stuck. And believe me, you more than likely will feel this way at one point or another. You have all these seemingly intentional hints you've found along the way laid out in front of you, but there's just something that doesn't add up, or you have the feeling that there's something missing. It may help you to stop and try to look at things from the perspective of the writer. And to be perfectly honest, this is a topic that I struggled to write into this video series, despite it being one of the most important sections of it that I felt a strong responsibility to get right. Looking online, I mainly only found advice on how to become a better writer yourself. It's a subject matter that I believe I really overthinked. And I'm saying this so you don't end up in the same boat. Don't overthink it to the nth degree. I think I'm finding that it's more simple than I would want to give it credit for. In order to decipher the writer's intent as the reader, the key thing you need to do is to start off by realizing that inherently the way that you, the reader, views the story is vastly different from how it exists to the writer. Unlike them, your scope is limited to just where you are currently in the story and the information that you have been given thus far. Unless they're just making things up as they go, which I do not believe they are doing here in the new story, the writer then has the knowledge of where they are going. They may even have the ending that they are building to already fleshed out. So if the goal here is to try and figure out what the writer is building to, we need to ultimately reverse engineer the story in order to get into their head. Let's start by looking at the characters. As an example, let's take a look at Eddie, a character we know very little about. Looking at him when he's revealed to us at the end of Cold War Zombies, we can reasonably assess that he's probably about halfway through his character arc. But we don't know what that arc is yet. Like we've established, he's someone who we have very little information about. The next question we should be asking ourselves logically is, well then, what is his arc? In order to figure that out, we need to critically re-examine all the information we currently have on him. To use a metaphor, imagine the story is a wool sweater, and you need to get the wool back. You don't just hack it to bits, but neither do you just leave it, because you really need the wool. You instead find the most obvious loose bit, and you pull, and see where it leads. It might surprise you. The thread might go in an unexpected path. It might end suddenly, because the person who knitted a sweater had to use multiple balls of yarn. But eventually, you'll get it back into singular threads rather than a complex interwoven pattern. Once you've done that and understand the process, you can more easily get into their headspace at their beginning point.